Words of joy and hope. Mary, Mother of God, Year C, Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 2, verses 16 to 21. Commentary of Father Fernando Armellini. Happy New Year to all. People have always searched for an answer to their questions about the mysteries of the universe and have attempted to give an identity, a face to the only being that can give meaning to all that exists. Observing creation, have discovered something of the mystery of God because creation speaks of Him. One only has to know how to listen. As every work of art tells us something about its author, so, amazed by the extraordinary grandeur and beauty of the universe, people have captured some features of the beauty, of the power of the Creator. Creation can only tell us this about God. It cannot tell us of His heart, of His freedom, or the immensity of His love, because nature has no heart. Indeed, it does evil, not out of wickedness, but because it follows its laws. There is, however, one creature who can reveal something of God's heart, and that is man. The only one among the beings we know who also cultivate thoughts and feelings of love. However, man is not only made of love, but also hate. He is made of goodness, misery, and violence. Only when he loves does he reveal something of God, which is only infinite love. Love is gold of which God is made. Pure gold. There is no trace but love in God. There is another step that humankind has taken in this search for God. In Israel, God revealed Himself also through the prophets. Thus, progressively, there arose a more transparent and precise image of the face of the one true God. Israel came to discover His love and presented it to humanity with images of God who loves as husband, father, and mother. But also Israel, let us remember, slowly came out of the darkness of polytheistic paganism. No wonder then that for a long time she continued to believe, like all other peoples, that God also ordered wars, to take revenge on enemies, ordered to kill. Thus, creation tells us something about God. Man's goodness can tell us something about God's goodness. Something more we have come to know about Him through the prophets, but all this is not enough for us. People always have longed to see the face of God. The discovery of the name and the face are indispensable to establish a relationship of love between two people. As long as one does not see the other face to face, love cannot blossom. The prophets raised to God a sincere supplication, and we find it in the Psalms, Psalm number 27. I seek your face, O Lord, do not hide your face. And Psalm 42 tells, when shall I see the face of God? Psalm 31, make your face to shine upon your servant, O Lord. In Psalms 24 we read, Israel is not introduced as the generation that seeks your face, O God. This is the reason for our joy at Christmas. God came to show us how beautiful His face is in Jesus of Nazareth. We believe in no other God than the God we see shining with love in Jesus of Nazareth. And this God began to reveal Himself in a child. He did not present Himself as an adult. He wanted us to behold him as a child because certain features of the identity of God can only be grasped by considering a child. A child needs affection. It cries if not caressed and kissed. This is our God. Take it or leave it. If you prefer the strong God who overcomes enemies, that's another God, not the one we contemplate in Bethlehem. A child is only tenderness and love. There is no threat of violence in a child's face. That is our God. Our God begins to reveal himself this way in a child. Naturally, he doesn't tell us everything as a child. But when he grows up, he will never deny what he revealed as a child. Let us now listen to those who first beheld that face and how they experienced immense joy.
As soon as the angel departed from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go then to Bethlehem. Let us see this event the Lord has made known to us." And they went without delay and found Mary, Joseph, and the baby lying in the manger.
It is beautiful that the shepherds, consulting among themselves, told each other what they had heard from the angel. The most unexpected announcement. To you, who are the outcasts of the religious institution, which keeps you impure, sinful, unclean, who tell you that if you enter the temple, you defile it, and who therefore is expected to be incinerated by the encounter with the Lord. Instead, they hear from the angel that the Savior has been born precisely for them. The shepherds seem incredulous. They ask themselves, how can God love us? They have always told us that he rejects us and wants nothing to do with us. Have we understood correctly? This is too good to be true. Even today, some people still experience this emotion that the shepherds experienced when they were surprised by the discovery of the true God. It happens, for example, when in the homily one hears about God's unconditional love for sinners. One hears it said that God will never punish his children, not even those who have done anything wrong in life. Whoever hears these things wonders, did I understand correctly? Is not the priest who speaks this way about God heretical? Even to the shepherds, it must have seemed impossible that God would have fallen in love with them. This is our God. That's why the shepherds encouraged each other and decided to set out for Bethlehem to verify it, to better understand this surprising novelty of the God of love, which had been announced to them, and they set out in haste. Let us notice that their journey is not reduced to a material displacement from one place to another. No. This journey is the image of their spiritual journey. They move away from the image of God that the catechesis of the Pharisees had instilled in them, who had taught them that God is a lawgiver and a strict judge, and that he is the friend of the good and the executioner of the wicked. Now they walk toward the true God they will contemplate when arriving at Bethlehem. We too are called to make a spiritual journey, especially today's Christians who are still anchored in archaic images of God, invented by people who have projected on him their miseries and desires for revenge, and have turned him into an executioner. This is not the God of Bethlehem. When the shepherds arrive at the cave, they realize what they had been told is true. They find Mary, the child, and Joseph, of whom the angel had not spoken in his announcement. Joseph, as always, remains silent. In the Gospels, he never says a word. He is the child's guardian who came into the world to reveal the beauty of God. What does Joseph's silence teach us? Joseph, in front of the shepherds, confronts this new revelation of God. It is different from what he had learned in the catechesis. That is why he keeps silent. He is in contemplation. Silence, reflection, and sincerity of heart are necessary to interiorize the manifestation of the true face of God. And they see the child in the manger. They see nothing extraordinary. We would have expected something more. Heavenly songs and flights of angels, but nothing extraordinary happens. Everything is simple and very ordinary. If some prodigy had occurred before that manger, we would have started badly, because Jesus, the Son of God, came to show us that He is one of us. He is our God. He is not the omnipotent God that we would have imagined, but He needs everything. If you like the God who is always ready to demonstrate His power by performing miracles, you must look for this God among the pagan idols. This is not the God who reveals Himself in Jesus of Nazareth. In Bethlehem, you do not see the rich, powerful, and strong God. You see the poor and the weak God. He does not instill fear, nor does He threaten anyone, nor takes vengeance on His enemies. If you look for the touchy God who is angry with those who dare to transgress His commands, you are looking for an idol. It is the pagan God who does these things, not the God who begins to reveal Himself in the babe in Bethlehem. Let us now listen to what the shepherds do when they come to the cave.
And when they saw him, they told them what they had been told about the child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told.
Art paintings usually represent the shepherds kneeling before the manger. But the Gospels does not say that they prostrated themselves in adoration, as the Magi did. Instead, they watched in rapt attention, contemplating the word of love revealed in that child. Their first concern was not, what do we do now? They were very conscious that they had led a less than exemplary life. They were thieves and notoriously violent, and yet they did not immediately think of doing penance for their sins. They were left contemplating the surprise of God's unconditional and gratuitous love for people like them. Later, they will think about how to change their lives. Now, they pause to rejoice in what they have heard and seen of the true God. Only after they feel loved will they be able to listen to the proposal of new life that the true God makes to them. Rejoice yourself also, even if you have made a mistake in life. Stop and rejoice if an angel has announced to you this unconditional love of God. If your heart is pure, you may hear a voice within you saying, "It is true. God is like this. It cannot be otherwise." That voice is the voice of the Spirit. So the shepherds tell their revelation, and the gospel says that all present were astonished and perplexed at this message of the shepherds. Everyone, including Mary and Joseph, were astonished. This leaves us a little perplexed. However, it is like this because Mary and Joseph were observant of religious practices of their people. They had assimilated from childhood the traditional catechesis that was offered to all. Mary and Joseph were pure people, not like the shepherds. Every year they went to Jerusalem for the Passover. They could not help but be amazed at what the shepherds told them. They were astonished because if it is true what the shepherds told them, namely that God requires nothing of the unclean but that He loves them, the whole catechesis that Mary and Joseph also heard from the spiritual guides collapses. Mary and Joseph will also be astonished when Simeon, taking the child in his arms, proclaims that He is the light that will enlighten all peoples, the glory of Israel. The father and the mother of Jesus were astonished at the things that were said about Him. And later, Jesus remained in the temple without them knowing it, and when they saw Him, they were amazed. And Jesus said to them, "Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business?" And again, the evangelist points out, they did not understand His words. Mary and Joseph set out on a spiritual journey to which we are all called. They started from a certain image of God that had been instilled in them. When they heard the new revelation of the face of God, they were willing to contemplate and welcome it because they were people of pure heart. If we are not astonished, it means that we have not understood this word of God's love. Only the gospel presents such a God who surprises everyone. We are well made. We are made to accept this truth. People have always longed to hear this message of gratuitous love. The child of Bethlehem is the answer to our deepest longing to meet a God who loves us like this. Let us now listen to Mary's reaction.
Mary kept and pondered everything in her heart. The shepherd turned back, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, just as it had been announced to them.
All were astonished, including Mary. But she was not close to the revelation of the new face of God. She tried to understand it. She had a pure heart, open to the newness that the Lord revealed to her. What did she do? Luke tells us with a Greek expression that is full of meaning. I tried to paraphrase it. Mary kept in her heart all the facts that involved her and all the words that she heard and put them together in order in her heart. Zumbelusa yendekardia outes. It is as if she were composing in her heart a painting or putting together the tesseract to compose a mosaic. She was putting it all together, trying to grasp the common thread of God's project that was being realized. It also happens to us to be involved in events, in circumstances we do not immediately understand the meaning they can have, and then we can live distracted. interested in something else. Or in each event, we can try to grasp what may be the plan of the Lord wants us to follow. Mary observed each event, meditated on it, reflected on it, and did not allow herself to be influenced by her convictions or traditions. Her heart was open to the light of God. In her reflection, which I would call prayer, she always showed herself to be available to accept the will of the Lord. Luke correctly presents her as the first believer. In fact, the first beatitude found in the Gospel is for her. Blessed are you who believed, Elizabeth tells her. Mary is our sister who, like us, has followed a path of faith not unlike ours. That's why we feel her close to us. And the shepherds returned, glorifying God for all they had seen and heard. The shepherds returned to where they were before, but they are not the same. They have changed. First of all, they considered themselves as outcasts, rejected, and now they feel loved and welcomed by God, just as they are, and their joy is manifested in song. We have heard that when the angels departed to heaven, they sang, "Glory to the Lord." Now the shepherds go away singing the same hymn of thanksgiving to God. It is a song of love because the shepherds have understood that the God they have found is loving. Let us now listen to the account of the rite by which Jesus is presented to his people.
When on the 8th day, when he was circumcised, they called his name Jesus, as the angel had called him before he was conceived.
If we go on the street and need information, we go to the first person we meet. Even so, we don't introduce ourselves by name or ask what his name is because ours is a fleeting, momentary, superficial encounter. However, when we want to establish a love relationship, when we are interested in a person, we first want to know their name. What's your name? When can we meet again? The last part of today's gospel passage tells us about Jesus' circumcision. But the focus is not on the rite of circumcision, but precisely on the name given to the child on that occasion. For the people of the ancient Near East, a name was not only a means of indicating persons or distinguish different animal species and identify objects. A name was much more. It expressed the nature itself of things and formed a unity with the person who bore it. Therefore, to know the name was to know one's own identity. Considering this crucial context, we can understand the importance that Luke gives to the name given to that child. Name that was not chosen by Joseph, but was indicated by the angel. That name comes from heaven, is the name by which God demonstrates the identity of that child to the Son of Mary. He shall be called Jesus. Yeshua in Hebrew, it means the one who saves. That is the identity of God, the one who delivers from sin, as Matthew explains. Yeshua comes from the Hebrew root Yasha, which appears 354 times in the Old Testament. And practically the subject is always God or his mediator of salvation. Jesus is referred to as the one who came to save us, not to take us to heaven. That he does without doubt, but he wants to save us here and now from that which dehumanizes us, that is, sin. It saves us from the attachment to money, from the will to impose ourselves to dominate others, from moral corruption, from the violence that leads us to wars, and from lying. He wants to save us from all these behaviors that dehumanize us and make us unrecognizable as persons. It is interesting to notice who in the Gospels calls Jesus by his name. In the Gospel of Luke, they are not the saints, the righteous, the perfect, but those who have experienced what dehumanizes them and asks Jesus to be their Savior. They are the ones who are at the mercy of the forces of evil, the possessed. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazarene? You have come to ruin us? Indeed, demons are not the little devils with horns. They are those impulses that come from our biological nature, the world and the flesh, as Paul calls it. If we follow them, they dehumanize us. They are the ones that drive us to violence, to domination, to the accumulation of goods. These are the demons from which the word of Jesus saves us. Jesus saves us with his gospel. The lepers also turn to Jesus and say, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. The lepers are alive but unrecognizable as people, losing their human semblance. This is the image of what sin does. It dehumanizes you and makes you unrecognizable as a person. The blind man of Jericho addresses Jesus. Jesus, son of David. He is someone who cannot see, therefore he does not know how to move through life, seeks salvation. That is why he calls him by name, Jesus. Then the last one who calls him by name is the criminal who dies beside him on the cross. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. The Gospels repeat this name at least 566 times to remind us that the images of God incompatible with this name, which means salvation, and only salvation, must be erased. I wish you all a happy new year in the joy of the Lord.